that I can tell you more about our school and the different programs that we have. So basically, our school was established in 2001, and we have graduated thus far around 5,000 students. At the moment, we have around 56 international faculties who are all active in their research, and their different areas of research can be broadly classified into three areas. So as you see here, the first one is under development, disease, and target. The second one is structural and cell biology. And the third one is plant and agrobiology. So these are the three research streams in our school. Now, apart from being active in research, all our faculties are also involved in teaching, and we take pride in that. So the curriculum of our school programs, right, were designed and developed based on four key principles. So the first one is the transfer of knowledge, which is of course very important. And the mode of teaching is based on what we call the outcome-based teaching and learning format. In other words, all the courses being taught will have specific guidelines, objectives, and deliverables. And therefore, all these different courses, what they entail, the description of all these courses, it can all be found in our school's website. Okay, so that is the first. Now, apart from knowledge, it is very important that we impart the right skill sets to our students, because you can't just have knowledge alone. You also need the right skill sets, especially in the field of biological sciences. Okay, and to do that, we have different programs and activities for the students. For example, we have this UAEB, which is also the abbreviation for Undergraduate Advanced Experimental Bio series of courses. So these are intensive one-week courses in which students will perform experiments in the lab and learn important concepts and principles. So this is unique to our school in NTU and perhaps even in Singapore. So we do offer many of these so-called short courses, right? Intensive short courses that allow students to have real hands-on experience. We also have research experience course for students in which students can attach to the lab for 2-3 months, right? In one of the research labs to hone their skills and also to understand how a research lab functions. The next thing is that for most of the students, they will be doing final year project. This is also known in the classical way, the honors project. So this usually will take around 3 to 4 months, right? And usually happens during the fourth year of the curriculum. Now, at the university level, we also have the Eureka, which is undergraduate research in campus. So for Eureka, basically, students from different schools, not just from our school, but also from other schools within NTU, they can apply to this Eureka program. And this is also a program that sparks interest in students regarding research, right? And this usually spans several months. Okay, the next important thing that we need to provide to the students is experience, right? So this is very important, because having knowledge, having skill sets, but without experience, then there might be some limitation when you join the workforce. So for our students, right, they have to do internship, and this is industrial internship. This is compulsory for all our students. So the places and organizations in which they perform the internship, right? We're not going into detail here, but actually they can be found in our school's brochure. If you come for our open house, you can receive a copy of this brochure. But you can always also email us, and we can provide you a list of different organizations and companies in which students work as an intern. And this usually happens for 3-4 months at least, okay? The next thing that we have is known as the work study program. So this is something unique to us. I will come to this later, right? And finally, we also have the overseas exchange for students. So students can opt for overseas exchange, and this is under what we call the Global Education and Mobility Office. So under the GEM series, you have the Explorer or the Discoverer series. So Explorer is almost 1 semester long of overseas exchange, and for Discoverer is shorter, it's about 2-3 weeks. So basically, all these are very valuable and important opportunities for students to gain real-world experience, either working in company, industries, and organization, and then also have the advantage of going overseas to experience and to see the real world outside Singapore. Okay, the next important thing is that at the university level, all NTU students are required to read what we call the interdisciplinary collaborative courses. So these courses are important because they help to students to build their cognitive agility. Okay, and I won't go into the detail of these courses because we don't have so much time on that. But basically, these are compulsory courses, and it also entails community service as one of the component in these interdisciplinary collaborative courses. So with that, we prepare our students mainly for professions in 3 key sectors in Singapore. So one obviously is the healthcare sector. The second one is food security, and finally sustainability. So these are the 3 professions that we are preparing our students for. Of course, apart from this, based on employment stats, there are also many of our who went into other areas, but those are smaller percentage, right, as compared to these 3 areas. Now, let me tell you more about the different programs in 2026. So for all of you who will be joining us, so we have at the moment 10 different programs under our school. Okay, so the first one, obviously, is the single major program in biological sciences. Okay. And this basically will involve courses very heavy in biological sciences. And these can be things like physiology, these can be things like biochemistry, molecular cell biology, genetics, and so on and so forth. Okay. So you can visit our website and the courses are all listed there. As I mentioned just now, we also have a work study degree program, and this is a work study degree program in laboratory medicine. So this is, we are training students to be employed in the hospital's diagnostic labs. Okay, I'll come to that again later. Now, unique to our school and also NTU is that we also have a Chinese medicine program. So this is a program that trains physicians in Chinese medicine. Okay, so this is again a 4-year program. And why we have the Chinese medicine program, the reason is very simple, because there is a huge demand for Chinese medicine in Singapore over the years. And we can see that this can be very important as a complementary and alternative medicine to Western medicine, especially in treatment of chronic diseases and pain management. Okay, now if you come to our open house, there will be a separate talk on Chinese medicine program by the director, and I hope you can join us for that program if you are interested in Chinese medicine. Now, after these 2, we have what we call the second majors. So these are, if you want to call it, these are like specializations. Okay, so basically you will be reading courses from the major under biological sciences, but you will also be reading additional courses that fulfills the different second major or different specializations. So the first one is in medicinal chemistry and pharmacology. So this is something that is in collaboration with the chemistry school of chemistry. So basically you'll be learning a lot about chemistry, organic chemistry, synthesis, and so on and so forth, especially in medicinal chemistry. And you also learn something on pharmacology, right? The next one that we have is the second major in biomedical structural biology. So as the name implies, this is a second major program that for students who are very interested to understand the structure of biomolecules, right? And this is very important, especially in drug discovery. And you will learn different approaches and methods used by scientists internationally, how they solve different structures of macromolecules, and how they utilize these to develop drugs or therapeutics. The third one that we have, second major, is known as the future foods. Previously, this is known as food science, but the name has changed to future food. So basically, as the name implies, this is a second major program that emphasizes on, for example, food chemistry, food microbiology, and the different processes and the QCs in food pipelines. So students who are interested to embark in a career in food science or in industry that is related to food production or manufacturing, then this might be something that you will be interested in. So this is again in partnership with an Wageningen University overseas, right? So it's not just from NTU, it is a partnership, all right, with the Wageningen University. Then we also have a second major in data analytics. So basically, this is in partnership with the School of Physical and Mathematical Division in NTU, and also with the computer science and under the College of Engineering. So basically, students will learn a lot about bioinformatics, algorithms, data science, and because this is very important these days, especially we have big and large data sets. And this is also very important for those who are not so keen perhaps to work in the wet lab setting, but are more interested in data analytics in terms of bioinformatics. Okay. The next one, second major that we have is in sustainability. So basically, this is in partnership with the ASEAN School of Environment at NTU. So as the name implies, so students will learn, apart from biological sciences, they will learn about climate change, the ecosystem, the environment, and so on and so forth. And how all these industries, manufacturing plants, and what have you, will have impact on these different systems, and how do we regulate and make sure that these are sustainable. Finally, we have sorry about the slides. Finally, we have a second major in entrepreneurship. So this is catered to students who perhaps after they graduate, they would like to be entrepreneur, right? So this is in partnership with the Nanyang Academy of Entrepreneurship in NTU. So basically, they will teach you more about technically how to become an entrepreneur. What does it take for you to become an entrepreneur? And what are the skill sets? And what are the expectations from you to become an entrepreneur? So for students who are interested in, for example, starting their own business and so on and so forth, then this might be something for you. Now, many students and parents will ask, what's the difference between single major, as what we've seen at the top, and second majors, right? Is the workload of the second majors much heavier than that of the single major? So the answer to that is no, it's almost the same. The only difference is that the courses that you will be reading are more specialized in the form of second majors, right? So it's not a huge increase in workload when we talk about second majors. Now, however, the next thing that I'm going to talk about are the double majors. Okay, so the double majors, the workload will be much heavier. We'll look into that later. But the double majors are interesting because they are interdisciplinary. So as you can see here, we have two double major programs. The first one is biological sciences and psychology. So this is in partnership with the psychology division under the School of Humanities at NTU. So for students who are interested in biological sciences, obviously, but are also interested to learn more about psychology or even want to pursue a career as a psychologist in the future, then this is something that you might be interested in. So basically, this is interdisciplinary. And for this double major, the weightage or percentage of the taught courses between biological sciences and psychology, they are the same. So it's 50-50, okay? And psychology, they are being taught by, as I mentioned to you, by the faculties from the psychology division under the School of Humanities at NTU. The next one, the double major that we have, is known as the biomedical sciences and biobusiness. So basically, what happens here is that apart from the biological sciences, students will also read courses under the bio business, right? And these are things like management and anything related to running a business. And this will not be taught by our faculties, but will be taught by faculties from the Nanyang Business School for the bio-biz component. Okay. Okay, so in summary, these are the 10 different programs that we have, right, for our school at the moment, right? And these are all 4-year programs. And by the time the student graduate from these programs, they will graduate either with a BSc honors, as shown on the left, or if they're under the CMAT program, they will graduate with a bachelor's in CMAT with honors. And of course, honors classification is based on your performance and your cumulative grade point average. Okay. So these are all 4-year program. Of course, we also have what we call the accelerated program, which is 3.5 years. But I will not go into detail for that because this is involves only a very, very small percentage of students. This is very compact and very heavy because it's 3.5 years. Okay. Now, in terms of the actual curriculum itself, right? So for the single major biological sciences, right? Don't worry too much about the numbers that I'm going to show you later. It just gives you a feel of what is the workload. So at NTU, right, all courses have what we call the academic units, and there are numbers to it. So the higher the number, the heavier the workload. So for the single major program in biological sciences, typically it's 132 academic units or 132 AUs, right? Now, in the curriculum itself for single major, right, a large portion of these 132 AUs, of these 39 AUs will be core courses, which is under biological sciences. Core courses means to say that these are compulsory courses that you have to read, okay? Then next, we also have the major prescribed electives. Now, major prescribed electives, as the name implies, these are elective courses in which students can choose the courses that they like to read, but these are all still under biological sciences. So typically, for this single major in biological sciences, you have 39 plus 33 AUs of biological sciences courses, okay? Now, the other thing that applies not just to our school, but basically to almost all schools in NTU is that all students will need to read courses under what we call the interdisciplinary collaborative core, okay, which I have highlighted just now in one of the first few slides. So basically, under this, students have to read some courses, right, and also perform community work under the Care Serve Learn course. And under this, we also have the so-called internship, okay? So these are all compulsory for all students in NTU. And finally, we have the broadening and deepening electives. So these are courses that need not come from with our school. You can choose courses from other schools, and that's why they are known as broadening or deepening electives. It need not be restricted to biological sciences. It can be from the School of Humanities, can be from engineering school, can be from chemistry, and what have you, right? It need not come from the biological sciences. So this is the outlay of the distribution or in terms of AUs, right, for our single major in biological sciences. Now, the work study degree program, as I mentioned just now, this is something that we launched not so long ago. So this is unique to basically our school. We are the only one in Singapore that have this. So this is in partnership with the 3 health clusters in Singapore, namely SingHealth, National Healthcare Group, and NUHS. So basically it covers most or all of the hospitals in Singapore. So what happens here is that for students who are interested to work in the diagnostic labs in the hospital after they graduate from our school, I think this will be very helpful to you. So basically, there is an increasing demand for people to work in the diagnostic labs in the hospitals, right? So for example, patients going to the hospitals, they provide samples, but all these samples are not analyzed by the doctors or the nurses. They need to be analyzed by the diagnostic labs to provide information and data on these samples, and then the doctors can then make a decision on what to do next, right? So what happens here is that students who are interested in this work-study degree program, right, they will register for it, right? In year 2, they are required to read one of the courses known as laboratory medicine. Then once they fulfill that requirement, they will go for 51 week of internship between year 3 and year 4. Now, this 51 week of internship may seem very, very long to you, but I assure you this is very enriching and very good experience for students who are interested in this, because we just had our one batch of students who have just completed this, and they all enjoyed this very much. So what happens here is that students will attach to the hospitals for 51 weeks, and they rotate amongst the different diagnostic labs in the hospitals to learn the different skills and the techniques to perform the diagnostic. Okay, so this is what it entails. So 51 week of internship. So if you are under this 51 week of internship laboratory medicine work study degree program, then you will not be doing the standard internship that I mentioned just now, because this would have fulfilled that requirement, because it's even longer than the standard internship. Okay. So what happens is that when you attached to the hospitals, right, you will go through the different diagnostic labs. For example, this is just some examples. You can have anatomical pathology labs, clinical biochemistry labs, microbiology labs, and hematology labs, right? So you go through, it's something like a lab rotation. So basically you go through these different diagnostic labs in the hospitals, and then you learn how to operate a lot of these machines and how to do investigation and look for biomarkers and so on and so forth. Okay, so that is what it entails. And in terms of career development pathway for this work study degree program in laboratory medicine, so what it entails is that for most students, if they graduate with a Bachelor of Science in honors, for example, if they want to join the hospital and in the diagnostic lab, they will join as the medical lab technologies 2. That means JG11 grade, okay, at the top. But for students who are under this work study degree program, because they have already gone through the 51 weeks of internship, right, at the hospital, they will join, if they want to carry on as a career in the diagnostic lab at the hospital, then they will join at a higher grade, okay? And of course, the career development pathway is not restricted to just the JG12. Ultimately, you can be promoted and you can have a choice to choose between 4 different areas like management, clinical, research, or education. Okay, so these are the so-called career development pathway if you join as a medical lab technologist at the hospitals. Okay, so the next single major program that we have that I mentioned just now is in Chinese medicine, right? So basically, this is quite heavy. As you can see, the number of AUs is 160, okay? So basically, our single major program just like I mentioned is about 132 AUs, but this one is 160. The reason is we are training physicians, right? It's not just a standard degree program, okay? So typically, you have a large chunk of the courses coming from biological sciences and Chinese medicine. And one very important thing to take note of is that you need to have O-level Chinese, because some of the courses in Chinese medicine, they are taught in Chinese. And then you have to be able to read the Chinese text, okay? So O-level Chinese is a requirement. And from there, apart from the standard interdisciplinary collaborative core and broadening and deepening electives that all students have to do, right? Students in this program have to perform clinical internship and also clinical training. Okay, so then this will make up the total 160 AUs for this Chinese medicine program. Now, how about the second majors that I mentioned just now, right? As you can see here, the number of AUs in terms of workload is not much heavier than the single major, as I mentioned just now, right? Maybe just a number of AUs higher. So basically, the format or of the curriculum is very similar to the single major, right? Most of the component comes from biological sciences and specialization in one of these areas as shown over here, okay? Now for the double majors, which is much heavier because what will happen is that students have to read two disciplines. So in this case, if a student is under the biological sciences and psychology double major, they have to read 42 AUs of biological sciences and a similar number of AUs, 42 AUs of psychology courses. Okay. Same thing applies for the biomedical sciences and BioBiz. So you have to read 42 AUs of biomedical sciences and 41, in this case is 41 AUs of biobusiness. Okay, so this is heavier than the single major. And one very important point to take note of for students coming into the double major program is that the final year project is compulsory, right? For other like the single major or second major, the final year project need not be compulsory. But for double majors, this is compulsory. That's why it's stated over here is 12 AUs, right? And this is classified under a core course. That means it's compulsory, okay? Okay, one very interesting point I want to point out, an update, is the recent announcement by Duke NUS. We have been collaborating with them for many years, right, on this graduate medicine pathway. It's also known as the NTU Duke NUS Medicine Pathway. So this is from their website. You can go and visit their website later if you're interested. So basically, this is a partnership with Duke NUS, and a number of our programs are eligible for this pathway. So what happens here is that, as you may aware, the Duke NUS Graduate Medicine School, right, is unlike the other medical schools in Singapore. So this is a graduate medicine school. In other words, this is a US system. All students who wants to read to become a doctor of medicine, MD, has to have a so-called first degree. Okay. So what happens here is that we have a partnership with them, and these are some of the eligible programs from our school. So students who are under our double major programs, right, are eligible for this NTU Duke NUS Medicine pathway. Similarly, right, I think they are going to make an official announcement in the press soon. For students who are reading Chinese medicine, they are also eligible. And students who are reading the biological sciences and second major programs as or the one in entrepreneurship, they are also eligible for this. And finally, we also have this Xian Yang Scholars Program, which these are more towards the so-called scholars program who are reading biological sciences. They are also eligible for this pathway. Okay. So what happens here is that if you can see why this pathway is interesting for students, and the reason is because if students after their first degree, they are interested to pursue medicine, right? That means to become a doctor, then this might be something that you will be interested to look into. Okay, so if the students are admitted to this pathway, then Duke NUS will provide the following activities. For example, as stated over there, there will be mentorship from Duke NUS faculty and alumni. There will also be specialties workshops. They will also have this scope, which is very interesting, basically standardized clinical observationship program experience. And then they will also be invited for medical related talks and so on and so forth. Okay, so what it entails when students apply to our school's program, how are they selected for this NTU Duke NUS Medicine pathway? So I will just briefly go into that. So what happens is that when a student has been accepted to the eligible programs, right? The school will shortlist and submit the names of this student to Duke NUS Medical School. Thereafter, they will interview the candidates and you may also need to write an essay. So after this selection process by Duke NUS, if you're shortlisted, they will provide you a conditional admission offer. Okay, that means you're given a conditional admission offer to undertake the graduate medicine at Duke NUS. But as I want to highlight here, this is conditional because you still need to fulfill a few requirements, right? First, you need to sit for the MCAT, or there are different tests, but the main one is the MCAT, Medical College Admissions Test, right? And this Duke NUS, if you are under this pathway, they will provide guidance how to prepare for this MCAT test, because this is a must for all applications to Duke NUS graduate medicine, okay? Second, a very important criteria to fulfill is that the total CGPA, that means your grades, right, at NTU DBS must fulfill our requirement. Okay, but if you fall short of that, then you will not be eligible at the end of the program. If you meet this criteria, then at the end of your 4 year with us, when you graduate from us, you will then embark on the graduate medicine training at Duke NUS. That means you will be trained to become a medical doctor. Okay. Okay, then finally, these are just some information and employment stats. So this is from 2024. We are still compiling the ones from 2025, so it's not updated. But hopefully, by the time we enter for the open house, we have the numbers. But basically, we see a healthy employment rate of close to full-time employment rate. Okay, so it's quite healthy. And the different areas of where our graduates are working in are indicated over there. So you can see most of our graduates are working in the healthcare sector, right? Of course, there's a large number also in education, right? And the rest are in public admin defense, R&D, and others, okay? So these are just some of the statistics. Now, for the Chinese medicine or the biomedical sciences in Chinese medicine, typically the percentage is much higher because they are trained physicians. So that will be their career. Okay. Now, a final note is that at NTU, our university provides many scholarships to students. So you can visit the website at NTU and you can see there are many of them. And I've just listed a few of these that are more closely applicable to our students. Obviously, the most prestigious one is the NTU President Award. Then you also have the Nanyang Global Scholarship. You have the USP Program Scholarship, and then also the CNYang Scholars Program Scholarship. So these are all excellent scholarships. They provide allowances, hall stay guarantee, hall stays, plus many, many other activities and training for the students. Now, for students who are interested in Chinese medicine, we also have the Sim Yong Chong TCM scholarship provided. Okay. Now, for foreign students, if you are interested in applying some of these scholarships, then we have the ASEAN Undergraduate Scholarship and also the NTU Science and Tech Undergraduate Scholarships for foreigners. Okay, these are not for Singaporeans. These are for foreigners. Okay. Okay, so with that, thank you very much for staying with me. And I think what we can do now is that I'll end the slideshow and then we can take a few questions. Okay.